If you're a small business owner who has a website, what is it costing you to not keep that website up to date? Hi, I'm Appy. I'm a website advisor and I code Happy. As a website advisor, I help small business owners to make sure that their website and their online business technology is working for them and for their business and for their clients and their audience. One of the reasons that your website can not work for you as well is if it's out of date or there are issues with it. So one of the things that I highly recommend is updating and checking your website pretty frequently. But what happens if you don't? What are the costs associated with that? The first one is trust. So when I talk about losing trust on your website, what does that mean? Trust and credibility. Well, if you go to a website and you see coming soon and maybe there's a time frame and maybe that time frame is a long time ago, maybe you lose a little bit of trust in that website and you're not sure if it's been updated recently. And that means the rest of the content, maybe you're a little bit less sure about. So updated content, things like seasonal content, if it's March and there's still Christmas things on the website, maybe you feel like the website hasn't been kept up with and maybe you're not sure if the content is still relevant. What about the footer date or other dated content? Anything that makes your website feel like you can't quite trust the information that's there, that can cost you credibility with your audience. Maybe it's a lead, maybe it's a client, maybe it's somebody who's getting information, but it can still cost you that trust with that person that you're building that relationship with. And that can be costly to your business. Even besides people, it can be search engines that are looking for indicators that you have current, up-to-date content that's relevant to your business and it's currently effective and currently applicable to your business, your situation, to the people who are looking for it. And that can cost you if it's not kept up to date regularly. And what do I mean by regularly? Well, kind of depends on how often the content goes out of date. If your business is on a pretty even keel and things don't change a whole lot, maybe even year to year, then maybe you don't have to update it that frequently. As long as your about photo isn't 5 years old, maybe if it is, maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. But if your audience and you feel like your content isn't serving them the most effectively at that time, then that can get in your way. So making sure that if somebody finds your content, it applies today. And that applies to people who find your content or search engines that are going to serve up that content also to people. Then if that content is still valid and still helpful, then that's going to work well. So that is something you can do and something that is a cost to keep it up to date. Or if you don't keep it up to date, then it can hurt you with your trust and credibility. The next thing is traffic. So we were talking about search engines just a second ago. And if you have content on your website that is perceived as not relevant or outdated, or even the official actual date, maybe in the footer or on your other content, is perceived to be less relevant, if those dates are old, and again, some old content is really relevant still, but the search engines want to know that it's still relevant. And if people aren't helped when they come to your website, if the footer date is way, way out of date and people come and they go because it's not relevant content, then that can cost you traffic to your website because the search engines see that People don't stay, they're not getting help, the dates are out of date, and they stop sending traffic as much anyway to your website. So that is another hidden cost. The final cost to not keeping your website up to date is transactions. So trust, traffic, and transactions. And maybe you'd say the transactions kind of comes from the other two things. If people don't trust your website, if they're not getting sent to your website, then you're going to struggle to have leads come to your site and interact with you, or have customers come to your website and purchase from you. And those are all things that work together, where if people can get to your website, then maybe they don't trust it, or maybe they're not getting there at all because of the traffic. Or if they're getting there and they're trying to buy, does it actually work for them to buy? So let me back up just a skosh. There are two parts to website maintenance, and I won't go into too much detail, but you have the part where you update the content, the products, whatever's on your website, and make sure it is current and applicable and relevant and useful and helpful. And then the other part is functional. And that's the second piece. And that's part of the reason for checking on your website fairly frequently. Even if you don't need to update your content, maybe it's okay for a year or 5 years. But if there's any interactive parts to your website, even a contact form, are those things still working? So several different things I've seen. One example is a website where one of the critical buttons got covered up by another text box. And what happened? Software update, gremlins in the system. I don't know. Nobody changed it. Nobody messed it up, but it went a little bit wonky and you couldn't see the button to buy the thing. It happens. And if you're checking, you'll find that kind of thing. If you're not checking, then you won't find it until somebody tells you about it. And they both work for letting you know that something is wrong. We always prefer to find things before the customers find them and let us know. Sometimes it happens, and that's just the way it is. That's another story. I had a client who her online store was working fine, and all of a sudden she starts getting messages from customers that say, "Hey, I can't buy anything from your store." And she called me and she said, what happened? I said, I don't know. So we went looking, and somehow the shipping options got disconnected from the store. I didn't do that. She didn't do that. What happened? Again, software update, stray electrons, I don't know. But it happened and it needed fixed so that her customers could buy from her. And yeah, that's pretty important. You don't want to overlook that one. So checking to make sure that things are updated so that people trust you, so that you stay credible, so that you stay compliant, because things change and maybe your legal policies need updated. Maybe, I don't know. There's all kinds of things that come up that need help and need updated, need to be brought current so that they're relevant and helpful. The other part is checking functionality to make sure that things are still working. And maybe that means you go on and you test your contact form every month. Or maybe it means you get on your phone and you look and you make sure all the buttons are still working every week. Whatever you're comfortable with, just be aware of the things that can happen when you don't. If you found this helpful, you want to keep going, I have something for you. I have a freebie that you can download on how often to update your website, depending on what type of website. It looks a little something like this. You can print it off, check things off for your website, as you make it work a little bit better for you and for your business. So you can check that out. Get on my weekly email list where I send tips for websites every week. And I'd love to see you there. Thanks for watching. Come back and see me again.